We want you to join the conversation. Just log on to our Facebook page to share your Obamacare horror stories. Joining us now with reaction to this and much more, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, Sean. How are you?
All right, so we have no security. I interviewed this guy Kennedy today on my radio show. He said there was no security built into the system.
These are health care records.
Yeah.
These are supposed to be private.
Private.
They're supposed to be confidential. They're supposed to be protected. Everybody feels about their health care records that if they're going to be given out, they should be the ones to have to give them out. This is very, very damaging. It's also very damaging for the whole process of eventually having electronic records, which would be such a great advance. But people are very afraid to have their health care records basically online because of the hacking problem. So, I mean, this has done a lot of damage, not just the obvious.
All right. So he says when you develop a website, you develop it with security in mind. First thing, right? First things first.
Particularly this kind of health site.
Yeah,
I mean, if a pharmaceutical company was developing a health site for their trials, they're going to have a lot of security because they don't want other pharmaceutical companies to find out what they're doing. Yeah. So there's not, this isn't brain surgery. There's a lot of examples out there of companies that have developed secure websites for their trade secrets.
Did you watch 60 Minutes this weekend?
Yes.
Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Didn't you love that drone that could deliver a product? That was awesome, right? I don't know if it would work in New York City, but it was really.
And when you consider the volume that they just handled this Thanksgiving weekend, or not just Amazon, but even smaller websites, this is minuscule in comparison to what they handle.
Well, I asked Kennedy today. I said, well, how would you rate on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best? How would you rate Amazon? He gave him a 10. How would you rate healthcare.gov? He said a 1.
Oh, how about -3?
Yeah, all right. But then he says it's hard to go back and fix the security around it because it wasn't built into it. He's basically saying if you want security, you have to start over.
Well, of course you do.
So what do we do?
They probably have to start the whole thing over because one expert that I trust tells me they built it all wrong in the first place because they built it from the top down rather than from the bottom up.
Yeah.
Now to go fix the bottom, and this is the reason I think you have that 1/3 figure of people are not going to get the health care they thought they were going to get, even though they signed up.
Yeah. A report today says the goal now of the administration is
there's a new goal, right?
There's a new goal.
It was going to all be fixed by the 30th of November.
Well,
all fixed.
All fixed.
Everything will be perfect. No problem.
Their deadline.
They promised.
No. All right. They say their goal is to just keep the bill alive until 2015. I want to
This is like a patient on life support.
How do you stop it? How do you the president? This is their holy grail. How do you stop it?
Well, I think the accumulated damage this does is going to make this a program that's just not viable with the public. I mean, you can see the Democrats running for re-election, next year. You see a lot of them now peeling off, moving away, and the problems are not just website. These are problems that the Obama administration created for themselves with the website. They could have done this right. The problems are fundamental to the law. The economics of this law don't work. The president never told us the truth about it. He never told us. He said, not going to cost any money. Well, it's going to cost a lot of money.
Well, he said $900 billion. It's already $2.7 trillion.
Actually, he said eventually it was going to save us money.
Right.
Which, because it's never going to save us money. He said you could have your own doctor. Doctors are dropping off like flies at this point. You could keep your health care. Well, that's turned out to be totally and completely untrue, and that's just going to get worse.
Do you believe? Because I think I know this president. I've studied this guy. He is a rigid, radical ideologue.
Right.
Do you really believe a moment will come where he says, "We've got to pull the plug on this. It's not working"? I don't see that.
I don't know if that will happen, but I think this is going to get worse.
Day after day. Cancellation letter after cancellation letter.
You haven't even gotten into all the people who have corporate policies, and that's the much larger group of people. We have a corporate policy for my firm. We got a notice the other day that next year it's all going to be reevaluated. A lot of those people are going to be dropped off. I mean, that's going to start adding millions and millions more who are going to be dropped off, or they're going to have to pay significantly more money because they're going to be forced to have coverage they don't want and that they don't need.
The Federal Registry pointed out, and this was back in July of 2010, the government knew that it wasn't just individual health plans, but they knew that a majority of small businesses would be funneled into the government system. They knew in July of 2010 that even 45% of big businesses. So then we're talking about 100 million people day after day, week after week, month after month.
The fundamental distortion here, Sean, is this was sold as We're going to do this through the private insurance companies. In fact, this is socialized medicine, because the private insurance companies are being mandated as to what must be covered by the government. And the private insurance companies are being used as the vehicle for redistributing wealth. So if a 70-year-old has to cover maternity benefits, the 70-year-old is making a contribution to somebody else's maternity
But really,
benefit.
the contribution is coming from young people who'd be better off with catastrophic
It's coming from
plans
everyone.
and high deductibles, and it's being funneled to the sick and uninsured.
It's coming from everyone who cannot craft an insurance policy that fits their needs. They now have to have the insurance policy that fits the needs of Obamacare's desire to redistribute wealth, redistribute health care.
And you need healthy people to pay for it.
And that is socialized medicine.
Yeah.
It's mandated by the government. It may not be the government doing all of it, but the government is enforcing it by law and using the private vehicles as the ones that are redistributing the wealth, redistributing the health care. That essentially is socialized medicine.
All right. So we agree it's unworkable. We agree it's unsustainable. The answer we agree to would be to cut your losses now and just accept the fact that it's not going to be workable. The president won't do it. So what should the Republicans do? The Republicans
should continually point out all of these difficulties in as nice a way as possible without getting too arrogant about I told you so. And they should watch as public opinion turns even further away from this as more and more people are affected. Just think about the fact that many, many more people are going to have their coverage dropped than new people that are covered.
So you're saying they don't have to do much?
I don't.
Just sit back and let it happen.
In a way, from a political point of view, you don't want to get in the dialogue too much, because then, it gets thrown off on us. Mm-hmm. There's enough here that this thing could fall of its own weight.
Last question. To me, this is liberalism as an ideology, as a philosophy that is being judged here.
This is what created the Tea Party in the first place, right? And people thought it was just Obamacare. It wasn't. If you talk to the Tea Party people, the original people, what they said was they're taking our liberty away. They're taking our freedom away. That's why it hit so hard. That's why it's so deep. Yeah. And now those people who predicted it are now watching it happen. They're watching their liberty being taken away from them. Americans don't like that. Yeah. I mean, we believe in giving people a certain amount of freedom of choice about these important decisions, and it's all being taken away from them.
I did appreciate, as mayor, you didn't take away my Coke or my salt or my trans fat. Anyway, Mr. Mayor, good insight. Thank you so much for being with us.